Good morning, comic family. This is Unruly Simeon's contest entry into Lady Fantastic's 150 sub contest. And she wants to know the 5 things that you think are important to you about comics. Now, I don't know about everyone, but I would think it isn't too much to say that the art is what drew us in. You know, if you, especially if you got into this hobby as a kid, a little kid, it was the pretty pictures, right? So, I mean, we all have our favorite pencilers, and for me, no one does interiors better than John Cassidy. No one. The man is brilliant. But here's the deal: when I was a kid, the first penciler who jumped off the page for me was Kirby when he was at DC. And inks are key. All right. I just picked up a trade paperback the other day. It was a compilation of the Tales of Asgard, the feature that used to run in back of Journey into Mystery. And I loved those stories when I was a kid. Just, they're as huge for me getting into comics as anything. But here's the deal: they got somebody to re-ink these pages, and they just made it too smooth and just made Kirby look generic and robbed him of the beauty of what makes Kirby Kirby. And for an example of that, you can go online and look at this new Powers of X thing that Marvel's doing, and they've got a Kirby variant. And it looks to me like they took an old blue line of a splash page, or maybe a cover that was never used. And it's like the X-Men versus Kazar. Shit, I can't even remember. But at any rate, it's the same thing. They got somebody to ink this stuff, and it just makes Kirby look generic. Inkers are hugely important, despite what the detractors and Chasing Amy might say. Alright, then you come to story. And here's the deal with story. Your characters have to be believable. They're huge. The best-selling novelist in our time in the English language, Stephen King, of whom I'm a huge fan. I mean, come on, y'all. Plot, it just ain't that important. I'm gonna do a haunted house story, but I'll make it a haunted mansion in Colorado. How can I top myself? I'll make a story about a haunted car. And then finally, shit, a whole town's haunted. Those are not earth-shatteringly original ideas. But what his gift is, besides being a pretty damn good writer, is his characters. His characters are just so freaking believable as people that you believe these situations that they're put into. And you get sucked into it, and it doesn't seem silly. A haunted car doesn't seem silly. Haunted town, yeah, fuck yeah, these people are living it. And there are great comic writers that can make great characters. Or take old creations and make them their own. All right, so then the dialogue to me is a big thing in comics, and most people, 98% of all comics, have the same wooden, stilted dialogue. I'm talking about the big two. I read some independents where this is different. Like Paper Girls. I believe that's the way real life teenage girls would talk. And Frank Miller did the hard boiled dialogue really well in all the Sin Cities. All right, but finally, the last thing is, and it shines through the page. Does the creator love their creation? Like obviously Kirkman does with Invincible. I mean, you can tell he's just having a blast, and he's writing a superhero story that he wishes he had read when he was a kid. Or do they love the source material? All right, so like Byrne did when he did his brilliant run of both writing and penciling FF, you could tell he loved those characters. And he had put a lot of thought into them, and he took them to places they had never been. And just made that whole comic so much better. And I think the prime example of does someone love the source material is Josh Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men. I mean, Whedon is a gifted storyteller, and you can tell he knows these characters, and he brings them together in just such interesting ways. And that was such a great comic, man. All right, but does a creator love his creation? Here you have for me, maybe technically the best comic ever done, Planetary, by one of my favorite writers, Ellis, and definitely my favorite artist, John Cassidy. They're both brilliant, and they were at the top of their game. And this is a little bit of a both. These characters are his creation, but he also loves the source material. If you've ever read this book, you know he plays around with a lot of classic pulp characters and a lot of classic comic characters, and takes them in different directions. All right. So that's my little dissertation on what makes a great comic to me, what I look for. And don't get me wrong, I love just ordinary stuff, just regular run-of-the-mill superhero stuff. Roger Stern and John Buscema in the mid to late 80s had a 2, 3, 4 year run on Avengers, and it was just normal vanilla superhero stuff, and it's amongst my favorite comics of all time because it was just superior normal comics. All right, and I can see I've ranted for a minute, so I'm gonna shut the hell up. Peace, y'all.